hello. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on the time that you are watching this. Listen, y'all, I know you saw us yesterday.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's out of our
Actually, it's great.
regularly scheduled program, but we definitely wanted to pull up tonight and have this conversation with y'all. And let's get into it because it's going to be so good. And as you guys know, we're trying to keep it to a minimum of the minutes. But the conversations be so good. It just be so good, y'all. So
It's never
definitely
within the time.
put your headphones in, do your work, do what you're doing, and follow along. And make sure you are binging. Make sure you are liking, commenting, and subscribing because on this channel, you already know. As we say every week on this channel, we are sharing our lives to encourage others to love Jesus, love themselves, and love others well. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will try to make sure to say that throughout. But let me pass it over to Janelle, who's going to pull up and let us know what we're talking about on tonight.
It's one of my favorite things to do. So actually, if you've been following us this month, we're talking all about dating on purpose or with a purpose, being more purposeful in our dating. But we're going to do it. We're going to take a little detour and talk with some men in our lives that we really love and cherish. If you've been following us on social media, we posted about today's live, and it's called "As a Black Man." ... So we wanted to get the perspective of Black men. Clearly, they can't represent all Black men, but we wanted to get the perspective of a Black man, specifically in the situation of the slap heard around the world. Now we know it's been a couple of weeks, and to be honest, I thought I was done talking about it too. But then I read Purvis's article.
Yeah.
And I said, I like the fact that he's focusing on more about his mental and emotional health, which is what Purvis does. He actually is a life coach, and he focuses on in helping men with their mind and their heart. And so we wanted to have him on because he wrote the article, and I thought it would be great to have my husband on because he's great. I really value his opinion and what he has to say as a Black man. And so we actually asked Tracy's fiance to get on too. So maybe he'll be commenting in the comments chat, and we'll get his opinion as well. So we just want to bring on the guys, Purvis Taylor, and we have Warner Miller. Hi, guys.
How y'all doing?
Oh,
Hi. What a sweet introduction. That's so dope.
I was like,
I'm telling the truth.
Yeah, Janelle got points.
But you know what's funny? But this was funny. Purvis, yes, because he wrote this brilliant article, and Warner because
he's dope.
Because we live together.
He's my baby father.
Those are my credentials.
That's my baby's daddy.
So actually, guys, I mean, I can go in about Warner Miller, okay?
No, please. I'm joking.
No. Let's do it. I'm gonna take
please no.
2 seconds and not embarrass you.
Y'all, Janelle's getting the points, okay, y'all?
Okay.
Just make sure she's getting the points, y'all.
When we were friends, I admired him from afar, not only because he's handsome, but really because of his mind. I actually really like his mind and what he has to say. And so, yes, you didn't write the article, Warner Miller, but you have a lot of great things to say. You have this combination of keeping your hand in the culture while actually having an understanding of the Bible and a relationship with Jesus. So it's a great combination. And I would say the same thing with Purvis. And that's one of the reasons why we love you guys, because you're not like believers in Christ who are just like oblivious to what's going on in the world. You know, one always says, don't
totally culturally aloof.
Right. Culturally aloof.
I like that.
You're not culturally aloof.
Yeah.
No, but I like that terminology.
Yeah, I actually have never really thought about it like that, Trey. So that's what's up.
So I'm gonna stick a pin in this because I don't want to be toddler aloof, and apparently my toddler is something's happening. Something is afoot. I'll be right back.
I think Coco Melon has stopped. That's pretty much what it is. That's pretty much what it is. So let's get started while Warner takes care of our child, because we have a child together. So I'll just tell y'all this real quick. Also, another reason why we have Purvis and Warner on is because when we were watching the Oscars, it was just myself, Purvis, and Warner in the room, and we all saw it. And I looked over to them. Purvis was like this. He went all the way down in his chair, and then Warner was like, and I was like, wait. I looked to them like, wait, hold on, is this real?
Yes.
Is this actually happening? Like, is this a stunt or it's not? And we knew it was real, well, for a few reasons. But I think for me, I realized it was real when he said, take your mother effing name. I mean, take my wife's mother effing name out your mouth. I felt like I was on the block on Notion in New York Avenue. I was like, yo, Will is from Philly. If you got it wrong, now you know. And so we just want to talk about what happened. I mean, most people already know. I feel like everywhere around the world, we know what happened. But let's talk about what happened. And I guess your initial reactions, men.
I'll go first. I was gutted. I was really traumatized, and I kept sinking. You saw I was doing this. I kept sinking into the sofa because I was just in shock at what I saw. And I was uneasy for the rest of the evening. I even left early and went to bed early because I was just like, I did not just witness this. And then when we heard the actual audio of what in the ferocity in which he was speaking, I was like, yo, this man is unraveling.
Unraveling.
Yeah. And yeah, I was just I couldn't sleep. Like, I cannot believe now I'm admitting that, but I couldn't sleep. I literally was tossing and turning all night, just like, yo, that didn't just happen. So for me, it's just kind of like I would say gutted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt all the things you said, not believing it at first, waiting for somebody to laugh or somebody to be like, gotcha, or psych, or something like that. And once that didn't happen, like, it was just a bunch of us looking at each other, me looking, and like I feel myself overusing this term, but I don't believe I'm an overly sentimental person. But like the next morning, I actually woke up and it was on my mind, which is bizarre to me that, and I'm still kind of in some ways unpacking why it affected me the way it did. But yeah, man, I woke up and it was the first thing on my mind, man. Yeah, I mean, I guess gutted would be an appropriate word. Just in disbelief. And as the week progressed, it started to get, I guess, unpacked more and diving more. And like, I think by probably Wednesday or Thursday, like, I just was kind of, not to overstate it, but I was exhausted thinking about it and hearing the conversations and seeing, everybody has an opinion on social media. And I was very grateful for Purvis for writing what he did, because it was, I mean, at least to me, it reflected what I felt, or the position that I had, more or less. But yeah, it was, I felt all the things.
All the things, bro.
I think for myself, when I saw it, first of all, I thought it was a joke because I didn't watch the Oscars. Like, I totally forgot, super duper oblivious to it.
Do you even watch stuff like that?
Like, let's say, for example, unless Janelle was like, oh, Trey, come over, we're watching the Oscars. That's the only way that I would have been like, oh, the Oscars are on.
Yeah.
Like, that's not something that was like in my peer view. And so when I went on social media, I think that Monday, I was like, what's that? Oh, it's a joke, whatever. I'm like keeping it moving. And then I went into the kitchen and turned the television on, and it was on CNN. And I was like,
it was everywhere.
What happened? Wait, what happened? I was like, wait, I thought this was a joke. Like, what's up? And so I went back on social, because, in my mind, it's so funny because social media kind of confirms and or denies, like, the things that you may very well see. And so I'm like, what happened? I went on and I saw it and I said, wait, this is real?
He really did it.
Because when I first saw it, I thought it was a joke and I kept scrolling and I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Something fun and cool happened at the Oscars, and I didn't even realize that it was the Oscars that night. Man, oh man, I felt I would say the word that I felt was stunned.
Yeah.
Like in super elevated shock, you know, like
yes.
what?
Yeah. Yeah.
And also with an air of disbelief, because there was so much. By Wednesday, the same thing with you, Warner. By Wednesday, I wanted to not believe it. Not even on the matter of like I was exhausted by it. I just wanted it to come out at it as if it was like a lie. And then when the Academy came out, I said, "Oh, this was real."
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much can agree with you two, you three. I was in shock. I was in disbelief. But I would say the thought that came to mind right away was, this is way more than just today.
You said that. You said it in that moment.
Said, this is way more than just today. So like, I used to always tell my teens when I worked in youth ministry, like, you have to address how you feel. And, you know, if somebody offends you, I know it's hard to approach someone, but I would say do it, not nitpick, but like do it as soon as you can in a healthy way. Because if it keeps on happening and keeps on happening and you don't do anything about it, you will blow up. So that's why living in New York City, you can step on someone's toe and they want to shoot you. You know, so like that's how I've seen it. I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in so many people. And I've never met Will Smith. I don't know him personally, but I actually really like what I see about Will Smith. I see his ups and his downs. I've just never seen him. We've never seen him this low before, like this, in this light. So we knew that, it seemed out of his character. Like I said, I don't know him personally. It just seemed out of his character. And it seemed like he was at his wit's end. And it was like somebody put a leaf on top of that pile. And it was like, I'm breaking. So let's talk about the article. It was with the Griot.
Yes.
So let's talk about how'd you get it.
Cheers to you, Purvis, first and foremost. Shout out to you. Do y'all see Purvis got his photo in the back? Listen,
his book. That's about
his
book.
We're
gonna talk about
games that with his photo in the back, y'all. There's no question about it. Shout out to your celebrity friends, okay? And this is one of mine. So I absolutely love it, and shout out to you for having the article and deciding to write that and sharing it with the world. So first and foremost, thank you for moving past whatever obstacles were there and making sure to actually put this out. So shout out to you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say before you start, Purvis, like I said, I think it was very important that we talked about the background behind this, because people were talking, and we don't want to just talk about this just to talk about this, because I mean, one, it's kind of like it's like 3-4 weeks old now, but mainly because there's so much to learn and grow from this. And I think, yes, I don't know if I had it on my mind when I first woke up, but I think it impacted all of us, but especially you two, because you're two Black men, and maybe somehow you can relate to this, in some way. And so let's talk about the article. Let's talk about that. But yeah, Purvis, go ahead.
So thank you, firstly, for that. I appreciate that. The Griot actually reached out to me. They actually wanted me to be a guest columnist, and I just didn't feel like I had anything to say. And so like I kind of turned it down. And so the editor hit me up. She was like, "Can you please just write something on the Will Smith thing? But I want you to put your spin on it." She said, like, just write what you feel. And I was like, okay, cool. So I had license and liberty to kind of write what I felt. But I thought about, and I shared this in an article, I thought about the moment I kind of metaphorically slapped somebody. After years of not dealing with issues and years of not, suppressing trauma, right? And creating or believing this narrative about myself that I wasn't a man or I wasn't enough. And the one time I got to flex and show that I was a man, it was just like the worst time ever. And, it was the first job I had here in New York City, working at a music publishing place. And I don't remember what happened, but I remember being escorted out the building.
Imagine that.
Isn't that so interesting? How
when
trauma,
I read that,
how trauma forces us to forget sometimes.
Yeah.
We forget details. We forget major details based on trauma. That's so interesting.
Yeah, like I just remember going off, and it was like I looked like the angry black man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I was not in control. I remember not being in control. I remember cussing and yelling and being right about what I was upset about, but I was wrong in the way that I was disseminating it, right? And and I remember getting home and just breaking down crying because I was so upset that I allowed myself to lose that much control. And so like when I was thinking about what happened to Will, that's what I saw. Like it triggered that moment in me that I hadn't thought about since I was like 22 years old. And so I wanted to write from that perspective. I didn't want to shame him. I just wanted to just be honest about me and what I've experienced and the, you know, over decades worth of work I've done with men and who've had similar stories. So I just wanted to write from that perspective because I just wanted people to see the humanity behind it. I'm not justifying what he did. I think, you know what I mean? Like it was what it was, right? But I just wanted to provide some context as to what possibly could have been going on because I related to that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think was possibly going on?
I just, you know, I'd read Will's book and I based
that's beautiful. I'm so glad that you put that in there because he like really poured out his heart, right? So you learn a lot about him from his perspective, from his words, not from like some, you know, somebody else, third party.
It was his words, and he talks about a moment where he saw his father beat his mother, right? And he immediately believed that he was a coward because he couldn't defend his mother in that moment. And he said that from that moment on, he developed a new persona. So to protect the coward, right? And so like he became more valiant and wanted to be the superhero, wanted to be the jokester, wanted to be the person everybody liked because he ultimately believed that he was a coward, right? That he wasn't enough. And so I thought about that because I had that same experience. And so I just related to a lot. It was a lot of parallels from my life and what I saw in his book. You know, my father was a drug addict. He didn't beat my mother, but I seen him in these drug-induced moments where he's held a family hostage and I couldn't do anything about it. And I felt powerless and weak, you know? I thought about moments like that. So just reading what he shared in his book, it really gives you insight into how he thought, his inner thought life, his thought world, and how now he's trying to discover who he really is because he's been pretending for so long. These are his words.
Wow.
You know? So like I know what it feels like to pretend. So it was just a very interesting parallel between he and I.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So can you relate to him somehow, Warner?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from what because we all have the disadvantage of proximity. Like none of us are close to him. None of us, you know, I don't think are trying to psychoanalyze him, or at least not, you know, with any authority. But yeah, from a distance, absolutely, man. It's funny, man. Even like listen to it, and I haven't talked about it like maybe 2 weeks now, going on 2 weeks, and listening to you, like my heart is beating fast. This is crazy, like that I'm this emotionally invested in this thing, not because I want to. You know, I'm gonna answer your question. Going back to the thing of what I felt when I first saw it. You know, I was thinking of, and Purvis would know this better than I would, you know, the stages of grief, like it's, you know, whether it's like denial, whatever the thing is. And I remember like during that week, it went from like disbelief to reconciling to, you know, justifying to kind of anger to I mean, like it went the gamut until I found like a resolve and a peace. But I remember like my emotions or my feelings toward it changing as the week went on until it finally got to a resolve or to a, you know, somewhat peace. But in as far as like relating to it, man, like, yeah, man, I think man, I think even in this moment, I think one of the things that is crazy, man, that's shaking me. Like, I think I'm remembering, and it's not to, take out the violin, poor me, but fortunately, a lot of Black men, a lot of men of color, grew up without fathers or grew up without consistent, positive fathering, and and a kind of result of that is that we are ignorant. Most of us, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but most of us are ignorant to what manhood actually is.
Mm-hmm.
I'll speak for myself. I know I was. And because of that, so prior to Janelle, I was engaged to be married. And I was at a place in my life that thankfully I had the I had the discerning to understand that I wasn't a man. Although like I was an adult, I was, in a male, but I was wise enough, thankfully, that I knew that I wasn't a man, and I wanted to know what being a man was. And I told Janelle this. I remember I put it on Facebook, and I have since uh, disconnected my Facebook account. But like, if I put it back on, maybe I'll search for it. But like, I put this message out to all of my friends, most of whom who were female, were women, and I asked them, what being a man was. And they gave me all of these, a man is, pulling up your pants. A man is, taking out the garbage. A man is, walking on the outside of the curb. A man, all of these culturally, I mean, I'm not going to delegitimize, but they are less definers and more what they attribute what manhood looks like to them versus a solid. This is what manhood is universally. And because I had such a hodgepodge of differing, things that this is what manhood is. It was very much like I was doing this, trying to find, and there was a frustration that came about, and I couldn't identify it as that at the moment, but looking back on it, it was a frustration. It was a frustration of wanting to know what it is and not really knowing what it is, and there are things that I probably did. I didn't slap a dude on national television, but like there are things that to try to project this thing of manhood I did that were incorrect. That was sincere,
Yeah.
sincerely wrong, but they were sincere. And so in watching Will, like I didn't perceive someone who lost control. I perceived someone who, you know, heard something, and yes, and there's all this other baggage that some of which we know, some we don't know. Heard, this person said something, and immediately he laughed. Maybe it was funny, maybe it was nervous laughter. Will doesn't strike me as a person that does nervous laughter, so maybe it was legitimately funny. I mean, I don't know, but there was a moment that maybe he looked over at Jada, and I'm not putting this on her because it's not her fault. But he looked at her, and I think all of those things that you said, Purvis, and that in this book, kind of, and then him working on this movie, about King Richard, and the stakes. It was like a perfect storm of listen, I'm not going to be made a fool of anymore. And even some of that, and this is I will kind of put on. Well, I'm not gonna put anything on Jada, but like even the a bit of being embarrassed on the Red Table Talk. Like I know he's heard all of the memes and the jokes about how he looked in in August. I'm sure of it. So all of that put together, the stakes, the context, the timing, the Jada being right here, I think it just came to a head. It was almost like, okay, this is where I'm going to prove to the world and to this woman and to myself that I'm not a punk, I'm not a soft rapper, I'm not all those things that he's heard, and I'm going to do something. And unfortunately, it was in my opinion, the wrong thing at the wrong time to the wrong person. And he is in some ways paying for it. I don't even think he's paying for it as much as he could, because like he could have gotten a lot of other things could have happened to him.
He could have lost movie roles. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, but he could have lost his freedom.
Yeah.
No,
it's been anyone
I
else.
mean, no. I'm not only talking about the movie
Oh,
role.
that's what you're saying. Yeah, yes,
Yeah, but I'm
exactly.
like, he could have lost
He
movie
lost.
roles. He could
Yeah,
have lost
yeah.
his freedom.
It's like, yeah.
He could have gotten arrested. He could have absolutely faced consequences. And it's like, one of the things that really saddened me also is the fact that, this, like, the guy that lives on, like, we're in Brooklyn, like the guy that lives on Church Ave, on Church and Flatbush, if he does that, he
It's
has
right.
consequences to pay. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, check this out, Trey. Trust and believe. Chris is from Brooklyn. Now, I'm not gonna overstate. Like, but listen, look. If you listen to his brother, Chris got goons.
Yeah.
Chris got goons. And if Chris was like, listen, I want this. Listen, anybody can get touched, and I don't wish this on anybody.
Yeah,
But
no,
anybody can get touched.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Including Will Smith, Oscar winner. So, like, yeah. So to your point. So I understand what you're saying. Yeah, he's only essentially, he got a couple years of being, Will's the pariah. A couple movie roles. In a couple years, one of his friends is going to cast him in a movie, and it's going to be the comeback story of the year. And he'll be, I don't know if he'll be right back, but he'll be okay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's the
definitely.
part that makes me sad
Yeah.
about this.
The privilege.
It's like
The privilege.
it's as if you are absolved from major repercussions, because the dude that lives on Church and Flatbush would not be able to do this and be absolved from repercussions. And the thing is, the fact of the matter is, people really have deep hurts, deep traumas,
Yeah.
deep issues that they have not even touched the surface with, right?
Yeah.
And so to see something like this, it makes you feel like, I could take it out on somebody and it won't affect me. And it won't affect me in this way. Like, I won't now lose my job. I won't now, lose all of these things. And it's like, for me, I just felt like, you know how Denzel, like, everybody's like, oh, Denzel, or what is his name? Really, Denzel? Right?
Yeah, you were reading my mind of all the points that I wanted to hit.
Right.
Yes,
but, like,
go ahead.
for example, somebody like him, to his caliber, I'm like, I could never see him doing something like that, because I think that he would be above all of it. Like, I think he would make sure that he is above all of it. Like, there's certain things I'm just not going to entertain, because all of that is beneath me. All of that is not something that I can get into. And I don't mean beneath you like you're holier than thou. I just mean beneath you like, I don't need to prove myself in that way. I've proven myself, and I've given opportunity to prove myself time and time again. But I say it all the time, whether you got it and it's not, that was very LDE to me. That was very...
That's her thing,
LDE
y'all.
means little dick energy. It was very little dick energy. It absolutely was, because it's like, bro, if you there's this level of toxic masculinity that you were trying to, like, big up yourself and flex, as Purvis said earlier. Like, if you got it like that, there is no need to flex.
But I think,
Go ahead first.
No, go on. Go ahead.
Oh, well, okay. Well, essentially, I was going to say that, like, yes. However, it's funny. I saw a meme, all these memes. I saw a meme that I think it had him, maybe Kanye West. I think it had Tyrese.
Yeah, Tyrese.
And maybe some other people. It was talking about, it was essentially, and I'm muffing it up, we make fun of them for admitting a certain bit of mental
health issues, vulnerability.
Essentially, these people are telling you that they need help, but they're being made fun of.
Mm-hmm.
So the point, and maybe if I had the meme, that would probably explain it a whole lot better than I just did. But the point is that while yes, what he did is suboptimal at best. I think that if this is not an excuse, but yet if you didn't have an example of what it is to be a man, And we take for granted that, yes, if you're and particularly somebody like Will Smith, who has this platform and he's very articulate and wise and he's a sage and he's centered and all these things, there's a projection that he has it together, right? And I believe, and it's almost the same thing like with pastors. You know what I'm saying? There's this assumption, right or wrong, and some of it should be like, if you're saying that you're, this with God, then yeah, there should be some moral authority, not perfection, but some, because you're a leader, and so there should be a certain level of expectation that, okay, I don't expect you to go out and rape somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like that, like that's a legitimate expectation. And similarly with Will, there's an expectation because of what he's put out there that, yo, man, that should be beneath you. But I would posit this, that this projection of great morality is not manhood. You know what I'm saying? It's not, morality is morality. Manhood is manhood. They're not mutually exclusive. It's kind of the same thing with like people confusing intelligence with maturity. Those are two different things. People can be very intelligent fools, you know what I'm saying, or very, very mature with a low IQ. You know what I mean? They are not mutually exclusive. So I think the thing with Will, that yes, what he did was wrong, whatnot, but like he was and is lacking a lot. Yeah. And actually all his actions did
show
was
that.
reveal that.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we didn't really know, Go ahead, and then I'll say something after Purvis.
Purvis, I'm sure would say much better than I just did. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like a bit of Arrested Development. You know what I mean? Like, for me, the person that lashed out, I'll speak for me, that lashed out at my job wasn't the 22-year-old. It was the 13-year-old. Yeah. And I hadn't matured and I hadn't grown up from that moment. So I was still emotionally 13 years old. And I reacted like a 13-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that moment. So for me, I looked at it as, and again, just looking at my own experience and just feeling the connection to it, it just felt like Arrested Development. So like, yeah, he's all these things, right? I'm all these things, but there's still some parts of me that maybe are 5 years old. And I admit it, you know what I mean? And I need to grow those areas up, but it doesn't take away from all the other things that I have as well, right? But I just think that was just that moment for him. I just think it revealed that he doesn't have it all together, that he has some growing to do, that he has and I think it's a beautiful thing, because now you get to get on the journey to discovery.
Absolutely. And I hope he's clear. I hope he shares that, like he shares his weight loss, journey and all these other things. I hope he shares that.
And actually, what? I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't. At least not at first.
I hope even when it's appropriate, when it's healthy and appropriate.
I hope at this point, him, just take a knee. Take a knee. Be over in the corner. Get well. Get your marriage together. Get your life together. We don't need to see it. We don't need to see it. This is the world has already seen enough. Go over there and get well.
Purvis, you said something. Purvis, in your article, you had Janelle. Were you trying to say something just now?
Yeah. So there was a couple of things. So one of the things I wanted to back up a little bit. I wanted to say something that Purvis and I discussed about his article, and you brought it up, Trey. You brought up two things that I wanted to bring up. The fact that Will Smith is Will Smith, and he has the money, the access, and it seemed like mature from when we first met Will in his teens to now, but there's so much more of him that needs to mature, like all of us. He has access to all the things. And you said, what about the guy on Flatbush in Church? Yes. How could the guy on Flatbush in Church, or I would say Notion in New York, well, not Notion, New York, Notion in St. Mark's, how does that guy learn from this? And they are similar. They are. You might not think, because he's Will Smith and he has acres and acres and acres of land in this one home and probably around the world, but the guy or the girl down the block from here can relate. And so, like, how do we help connect the two? And then of course you could say what I don't know what you was going to say, Trey, but how could they learn?
So something to that, I think the part that's unfair is that once people think that you have this financial access, that means that you are intaking it. You know what I'm saying?
And so that's the problem.
Yeah, like so you could have the financial access, the same thing that we always hear about. Like you could bring this horse to the water. That doesn't mean that the horse is gonna take that water and drink it. That means that the horse will be there, but you cannot force the horse to actually utilize their throat to swallow the water that you may try to force into their mouths. It doesn't work that way.
And sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
And I think that's what it is. I don't think he.
And that's a big thing.
I think
I disagree with that. I don't think he doesn't know. Because there's no way that your wife, right, very, very close to you, this is your wife, very, very close to you, and your daughter are on this path of opening their eyes, opening their doors, and the doors to their hearts, to their minds, to a form of healing, a sense of healing, an understanding of healing, and you don't even see it enough. That does not add up. As if like, oh no, I don't know. It's more to me a matter of I don't want to engage in there. I don't desire to engage in there, or I don't feel like I need to engage in that.
I also think like when you put in a lot of work, and I think, from what I understand, based on what they've shared as a couple, they've gone through tremendous amounts of therapy. They've gone through, tremendous amounts of sessions with their therapist, whatnot. And even still, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. Right. It's like that. It's like that thing that's tucked away in the subconscious. Like,
what does that mean? You don't know what you don't know. You don't know that this could trigger you. You don't know that you still are harboring these feelings of I'm weak, I'm not good enough.
Yes, you don't know that you're still there. You don't know that you're still there.
Absolutely.
Like, okay. You don't know that you're still there. Like,
blind spot. Now I can understand. I can understand.
Yes, it's an absolute blind spot. I just think in that moment, like I said, I use the word beautiful, and I know that's a strange word to use in this situation.
I agree. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful because now you get to see like those missing pieces, right? You get to address those missing pieces so you can actually get on the journey towards wholeness, right? And hopefully he finds Christ while he's doing that. Like that's ideally.
Right.
And further, you could, and please, y'all, because I think that even whatever deficit he had in as far as his, emotional, whatever he's going through, man, I'm telling you, like, as someone that's experienced like a little tiny little bit of some notoriety on a set, I'm telling you, fame, money, people telling you you're dope, maturity, all those things can absolutely blind you, even the most conscious person, from what in our vantage point would be so obvious. Even someone like Will Smith, what I'm saying? So as much work as he's been doing, and I don't take away that he's been doing work as much, his all that stuff you said, Trey, as much as he's been doing that, even still, he's in a context where it's another type of reality. Fame and money and power and success. I'm telling you, even for the best of them, even Denzel Washington, his wife would tell you, even to them, and I'm not throwing shade at anything, but like, even to them, yo, man, stuff can get lost, can get buried under all of that. And you have to be, and to Purpose's point, and I believe only Christ, and not some like religious hokey pokey churchy sort of way, but Christ dealing with the heart of a man. You know what I'm saying? The intentions, the motives of a man, not just mind wellness or not just doing a bunch of good things, but to the heart of a man. That's what I believe. Christ, that the element of Christ, having Jesus as the North Star. Fixes that stuff,
because the Holy Spirit reveals things that no therapist probably can ever get to,
Absolutely.
And Trey,
don't be clicking sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And that's fine. The Holy Spirit is different than any human being.
Yeah.
So because God is all knowing, all powerful.
Mhm.
But y'all both mentioned Denzel. So there's two things I want to say about that. I would say you can watch clips of Denzel up to like 2-3 weeks ago, and he will say how he's messed up throughout his years of, and he doesn't go into detail, but I think you could put two and two together based off of some rumors you heard back in the day and what he says now, and how he says like his relationship with God. He said I don't even know if I want to act anymore. But like his focus is something else, because he's doing things with Pastor Bernard. He's doing things with TD Jakes. I'm not saying that that's like a clear sign, oh, he's found this relationship with God, but I do think that it's developing, and you can tell that his spiraling of his slap wasn't on television, but it was loud enough for his community to know, even for people like us to know a little bit about what was happening. And he wasn't putting his life on social media like
yeah, but also
did.
that time, the not having
because he doesn't
media,
he's older.
Yeah, and not having social media, like
It's different.
that is such a different time. Like
Yeah.
you can't go anywhere without somebody pulling out their cell phone. The moment
so he
that
came
you
up in a
act,
different time.
the moment
Exactly.
that you act up, and I'm putting that in quotes because everybody's act up looks very different.
Absolutely.
But the moment that
And that's what I'm trying to say. Denzel acted up.
It's like, oh my goodness, where's the
And
phone?
Purvis acted up.
Right.
I'm
And
like
Janelle
ready
acted
to
up.
record you, and it can be stifling because that joint exists and that joint lives.
Absolutely.
And I was gonna say, even what, someone like Denzel, I think one of the beautiful things about him, and I don't I met him a few times, but I don't know him at all. But I think that he's been introspective. I think sometimes when you get to these spaces, you sit with yourself and you really examine your life. And I think
you desire to.
But you desire to. And I think
you can tell he does.
I think that he's choosing to be more introspective about his journey, the mistakes, the wins, the choices that he wished he didn't make, and you start to get to a space where you get honest with yourself, and you start to look back at your life, and you're like, oh, what are the lessons that I learned from this, right? But I think everyone's not there.
I have to say we absolutely have to mention Chris Rock, and the reason why I'm saying that is because when you're talking about that level of introspection, I think for me, to me, he really just exuded this. I gotta stand 10 toes deep in this, because if I do not, I will now. It'll be a fight, and I don't have to buy into you, because I know I could, but I don't necessarily have to. And to me, it was. I really struggled with how many people were like playing him. We're making it seem like he was a herb, or making it seem like,
because the world
it couldn't have been me or whatever. And it's like, bro, it probably could have been you. Because if you think about it, let's be clear about Chris Rock and the divorce that he went through, and all of the money that he he got mad brothers, okay? Like, he has a whole entire squad. Like, this is not,
they're like the Wayans.
Like this is not just him on his own little boat by himself. So in his mind, I think it was really unfair for people to judge him as like a herb, as opposed to being like, yo, I can't mess up what I'm already doing for me and my family. I cannot. I have to stand 10 toes deep and standing firm right here, because otherwise I am putting my life at risk.
And Chris was humiliated. He was absolutely
like the way he was like he was like
masculine. Yeah.
He's the biggest.
He could even read that. He could even.
People don't get how much that takes to not spit fire back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When you ready, guns ablaze, ready to spit fire back. You don't know how difficult that is. That's a lot of that right there. That right there is big energy, okay? Because it's like, for real, it takes y'all know Y'all know as Black men, it takes so much work within you for you not to pop off when anybody say or do or look any which way.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like he was wrong for the joke, in my opinion. I think, there's other
Yeah, I don't
ways
think so.
to I think there's other
I'm
ways
sorry.
to be funny, because at least in my opinion, when you see people like what's his face? Oh God. Chadwick Boseman, or like why would you make fun of somebody's hair or weight? Like those two, in my opinion, those two things you don't do, because that associates with possible illness. You don't know what's going on with her. Or maybe he did. Maybe he knew it was alopecia. Yes, alopecia is hard, but it's not, thankfully, it's not as, as severe as some other stuff. But it's hard. Like, so I don't think he deserved the smack. I definitely don't think that. I don't think he deserved the humiliation. I don't think he deserved any of that, but I do think that he was wrong for the joke, and I hope a lot of comedians are listening and watching. I don't think they're going to change, but like I hope they do change.
I think they're gonna go in even harder.
I think they
I
should.
think they're gonna go in even
They should
harder.
come up with ways to be funny without humiliating people. Like
But
if
that-
you're that funny,
right.
you don't have to humiliate somebody. Be funny in different ways. But like you said, Trey, I do believe that he was right with not responding, because it could have been a fight. Like it could have been a legitimate fight.
He could have
Like
threw hands and been
blow
like,
for
"All right,
blow. And
Mhm.
I love the fact that he didn't respond, but I think he was wrong. But he didn't deserve a smack. He didn't deserve to be humiliated.
I felt like there was something that I saw that it was like, yo, he could have did a Kanye. He could have absolutely did a Kanye.
Yeah, and So,
what's the Kanye? What's the Kanye?
Just walk up to the stage and say that's not funny, and then go back into the seat.
Oh, you took him out.
Yeah, Will could have done that.
Oh yeah.
I think Will
right.
should have spoke to him after. I think they should have had him
Or
like
that.
they should have. He really should have responded. I don't think he should have left the night without responding to that. Just not in that way.
Or
But
you could have shaded him when he won his Oscar.
I don't think
I knew he was gonna win.
I think he needed to have a one-on-one conversation with that man and was like, listen, because you saw Jada's face. She was like, I know that face. I have done that before. Like the rolling of the eyes, that was like, because she rolled her eyes real hard. She did not like it. But anyway, so what was I gonna say? Oh my gosh. But Purvis, back to your article. Back to your article. So you spoke about the fact that you can relate to Will, and you spoke about the fact that mental and emotional health is something that we need to be more focused on, especially in the Black community, especially with Black men. Is there anything else that you spoke about in your article, or in general as a life coach and been doing this work? You have a few books out specifically for Black men in this space. So like, is there anything else that you want to say about this that that can help us? Because there's a lot, because we all can relate to Will too.
Yeah, you know, it's something that I heard in a Bible study from Chris Burge, and he said this statement, and it stayed with me for the rest of it's gonna stay with me for the rest of my life. And he said that men scream at a frequency that only they can hear.
Oh,
and that is so true. That is so true, and I know it to be true, like, because I've screamed for many years and no one heard me. It was only me that heard me, and
wow.
I just think that we just need to have more spaces where men can, that internal scream can be external, so it can be helped, right? I think that's the move, is for men to be able to be human, to be able to express, to be able to unpack, to be able to process, and still, leave with their dignity still intact, right? No matter what is shared. And so, like, I just, I want this to be the impetus for even more conversations,
Yes.
the impetus for even more dialogue, more safe spaces, more workshops, more books, because somebody that famous, right? Being he's still a Black man.
Mm-hmm.
In spite of the fame and all that stuff, he's a Black man that's still on his journey, like the rest of us,
Absolutely.
right? And so, like, he's no exception. So imagine brother at the end of the block who don't have access to any of those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's screaming too.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's just I think it's more so about just creating spaces and having, conversations and offering solutions, man. Like, the suicide rates in Black men are alarming. They are the fastest growing in the country. Depression in Black men and Black boys looks different than any other demographic. So it's like, we're interesting when it comes to mental health. Mental health is not an exact, psychology is not an exact science. So it's like, finding ways, developing new ways that help Black men, right?
Yeah.
We're not monolithic, and even within that, we're not monolithic, right? Every Black man is not the same. So I just think I think it's a beautiful time for us to really engage and really, shed some layers.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So I was watching Pastor AR Bernard and Jamal Bernard, and they had a whole sermon after this, the Sunday after, called The Anatomy of a Slap.
Yeah.
I watched a little bit of it today, and pretty much, I think us as a believers, we see everything, at least for me, I see everything as spiritual.
Yeah.
I pray God is using this to, what you said, bringing more light, because I think we have that, but we need more light for in the Black and brown community, specifically with men, mental, emotional health. But there's also the spiritual aspect as well. And so that's when I love, we can talk about Denzel and Tyler Perry, how they brought him to the side and they spoke to him, but I didn't know that they prayed with him. I was watching something that Denzel said with TD Jakes after, I think it was like the Sunday after at like some conference. And he said, we prayed. Simple things. He was like, I don't have much to say. I didn't know what to say, so I prayed. And I was like, perfect.
That's
like
exactly
that.
what it is.
We all need somebody that's going to sit us down and pray with us and like get us at least grounded for the moment, right?
That's love right there. That's real love.
That's the love language. That's the love language right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, Pastor Bernard was saying, don't be distracted by the high points of your life. And Denzel Washington said something like that to Will Smith that day. The presence of God determines our choices. That's what Pastor Bernard said. They're either righteous or unrighteous. So we pray that he stays in the presence of God, that he, one, accepts him as Lord and Savior, and then Jesus, and then two, like actually like sits in his presence, like as we all need to sit in his presence.
Because that's two totally different things, accepting him as Lord and then sitting in his presence.
Because you can go deeper. Go ahead, Warner.
No, I was, because I don't want to break up your flow, but I something has been on my mind, and you kind of opened the door to it, or at least in my mind you did. Like, even with, best case scenario, like this kind of yields, Will, realizing that, Jesus is exactly who he said he is, and he gets saved and whatnot. I also believe, man, the person you marry matters a lot, man. Janelle, you are very influential on me, whether you know that or not. And I know I am you, and whoever it is, like, the person you marry matters. And please hear me, you guys and whoever listens to this, I am not putting any of this blame on Jada, not even a little bit.
And a lot of people have.
Will did it. He did it, and he did all that stuff. However, I can't help but at least wonder. See, I'm hesitating saying, I can't help but wonder, like, if that was another woman, would this have been different? Maybe it would have come sooner. Maybe it would have come later. Maybe, like, I remember my mother on the day that I was like through with talking about this, she calls me and she tells me about a bunch of other stuff. She's like, Warner, so about that Will Smith thing. I was like, Mom, come on. So we're talking about it, and well, we're not talking about it. She's talking. I'm listening. So she goes on to say, yeah, man, like, if your father, I would never have, I don't know if she said allowed him to do that, but something to the effect that, if he did that, she would have a word with him. Like, as soon as he sat down, he'd be like, why did you do that? I told you don't do stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
she did.
We don't. We absolutely do not.
Or she left it for the call.
I have seen video of her laughing as Will was walking back. So if she was upset, She didn't seem it
I
or
don't know.
look it.
I think they
You know what I'm
the
definitely
thing
saying?
is,
know
So
how to
a lot of
save
people
face.
have very awkward responses
Yeah, I
to
think
high emotional things. So the
right.
same way that
fine.
he could have laughed when he heard the joke. It was a very awkward thing. Like
It wasn't even a funny
I'll
joke to
give you
me.
a quick example for myself. If something is very difficult for me or what so have you, or I'm stunned by it, or I don't know, you might hear me giggle. I don't find it funny, but I'm just like,
You're
what? Like,
nervous.
where does it make sense in your brain that this, you know what I'm saying? So I might be like, what? Why you think that? You know? But that doesn't mean I'm genuinely finding something funny. It's just like that adds to my conversation about whatever it may be. And I'm not trying to excuse it at all, but at the same time, do you always want your partner's response to be read on their face? Like, do you always want your partner's thoughts like sitting on them? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't
possibly,
know. So that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying that in terms of like if you saw him walking back and she's like mortified, then it would have been like, oh, then it now is more palatable for other people versus
sure, sure,
as he's walking back and she's like giggling out of potentially, we don't know, this is all hearsay, but all potentially a very awkward laugh because it's just
Yeah,
like I don't
I've
know what
definitely
else
done it
to do
before.
in this space, so I'm gonna laugh.
sure. I think the big, all you said right. All you said is right. I agree with that. I think that the bigger point I'm talking about insofar as the person you marry, the person who you marry matters, is that as a result of all this, a lot of conversation was happening about, protecting black women. What does that look like? What does, how do you protect a black woman? Should black women be protected? Da, 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 all this stuff, right? And I don't believe, absolutely, I could be wrong. I don't believe that he walked up there thinking that I know Jade is going to disagree with this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I believe that there was a part of him that thought that, listen, I am doing this because I know, or I believe that this is what she would want me to do, whether he was correct or not. What I'm saying is it didn't come out of, I don't believe it came out of some uninformed place. Like he wasn't influenced to a certain degree. So that's what I'm saying. Like who you met, like I said this afterwards. I said that, I don't think I would have done something like that because I don't think, and I remember Janelle was sitting there, she was like, her first response would have been like, ooh, Warner, that's sexy or whatnot. But then, we talked about it and then, she had another opinion. But like, I don't think I would have done something like that in response to Janelle, because I don't think that Janelle regards, in that context, I don't think she regards that as me protecting her.
No.
I believe she regards me protecting her as me being healthy. I'm sorry?
I would have felt like you embarrassed me. That's how I would have
Yes,
felt.
yes, yes. But
I would have
Absolutely.
been like,
some people,
OMG, I'm
Yeah.
mortified.
but
Now
many women
everybody's
would have
looking at
taken
me.
that as,
Everybody's
oh,
talking.
yes.
Yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
let me correct you. I said that because I know you would have good intentions to protect me, so that would be sexy. But I also would have been like, no, don't ever do that again. Like embarrassed, So there would be like your intention was good, but the way you executed that was horrible. And I mean, for us, I would have been super surprised because that doesn't seem like something that you would do. But maybe she felt the same way. We didn't think that he would do that too. So anyway, I would have been like, "Oh yes, you protect your intention was good, but we got to figure out another way to handle this because that's embarrassing." And also, I was concerned about how Black people, especially how Black men looked. I know we don't need to be, but like, it's true. Like, I think it just furthers that stereotype of men or Black people just being violent and angry. But that's low on the totem pole. But that's just something I thought about.
But the thing that I thought about, the thing that is, I meditate on it and I think about it is our choices affect other people, no matter how selfish they may be.
Yeah.
From this situation, Will Packer may not ever get an opportunity to produce an Oscars again.
I hope not.
You understand what I'm saying?
Because that's not his fault. But still,
have an all black production staff, or you know what I mean? Like there may be more different protocols now at the Oscars. You know, it may be more restrictive. You may not be able to move during the commercial break. You know what I mean? Like it's so many things that happen from one person's choice, and so like that's what I think about is like our choices matter and they affect not just us but other people.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't affect Will Packer, but it might, and they might not want more black people in the front. I don't know. And you know how for a long time it was like Oscars so white or something like that. They would say. And then this is the first one that was very.
Bro, it was a really good show. Really good. I mean, you didn't see it like it was actually a really, and I don't watch the award shows either. It was a really good show, and it's a shame that it's overshadowed by this.
You know, because people like Questlove. You know, won the Oscar right after, and we didn't really like pay attention because of that.
And then Will Smith hugged him, and I was like, "That's so funny."
You said Will Smith what?
Philly, you know, there was a Philly connection.
Yeah, I know, but it just looked awkward. Like, bro, sit down, just don't.
So anyway,
but nonetheless, y'all, we definitely have been on here for an hour. So is there anything, any last minute things that you guys wanted to just mention, and folks, please do not forget to pull up to the grill so that you can get to Curvis's article. It really provided a very humanistic, reflective, and kind of like outside looking in while still being inside looking out perspective. I loved it. I thought that was really full. It was a very full read.
And it was like not a blame you messed up.
It was like it was very humanistic in its approach, and I thank you for, as I said, thank you for writing that. It was clear. Even my fiance was like, yep. He was reading it too, and he was like, yep, all that, all that. So yeah, is there anything else that you all wanted to mention here?
I would just say this, like when it comes to like healing, and I say this in my book, healing isn't linear, but it's continual, right? Mm-hmm. So we heal for the rest of our lives. And so like, you just have to be committed to the journey. Healing can be like this.
Yeah. Yep.
As long as you're committed to the journey, that's all I want. I want brothers, particularly black men, to know that it's not just this step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, and you get the prize. No, it's really like step 1, stay there for a minute, be introspective, sit there, figure it out, feel your emotions, then you get to step 2. And then you may have to go back to step 1. You know what I mean?
You could be at step 5 going back to step 1.
You can be at step 5 going back to step 1. And so I just want people to know that, it's worth it. It's not fun. It doesn't feel good, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I remember I had a conversation with my therapist the other day, and I was like, I feel like I've been doing this self-development work for so long. And she was like, and you have more to go. I was like, I know, but just listening to certain things and her meeting my family, it was like, there's a lot to do. You come from a place where, is this extremely unhealthy, and Will, same thing. He came from a very unhealthy place. Warner said a few times something about he didn't have an example. Will didn't have an example of manhood, but I think he had an example. It was just not healthy, So that's where he's coming from, and he did all the work, and but he comes from a very hard place, so he has a lot more work to do. So that brings me.
It's shifting from the auto response, and the auto response is what? Automatic.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that would have been my auto response. Like, get your that hood, like what he said.
He was sounding like a real hood booger.
Mm-hmm. That was I don't. He really did though. Like that line was classic hood. Yeah. I'm very bad with what's it called, reading lips. But I know
he read his lips. He read his lips.
He was very articulate.
He was very articulate.
First of all, we've heard that several times in the hood.
Yeah.
Second of all, he made it very clear, even though we didn't hear the words. So anyway, the point is, right. But Purvis, I agree with you. Like we'll be healing for the rest of our lives. So let's talk about those 2 books of yours, and I guess we can wrap
Y'all,
up.
I hope my phone don't die because I was on.
Oh, he was like, "Yep, I got it right next."
6%.
Sorry, Trey.
All right, good.
Yeah,
he'll forward into Thriver Mode. There are books written for Black men's mental health, and I love these books, and they're very short and succinct because I didn't want to belabor the issue, and I wanted it to get straight to the point. So you can get those books on Amazon or purposetailor.com.
right, and pretty much
what's the latest one called? Healing Forward, you said?
Heal
Yeah.
Forward.
Heal Forward.
Yeah. Anything you want to say, Mr. Miller?
Sure. By Purvis's books. Oh, and I do want to say this. That I believe that with regard to protecting your woman or protecting Black women, daughters, mothers, whatever they are, I think the best way or the primary way you can protect them is by being emotionally healthy, and also spiritually healthy.
It's sexy, y'all. I'm telling you.
Period.
And not one or the other.
It's
Because
sustainable.
yes, you can be emotionally healthy and do so much of the work that you do what a friend of mine, what his pastor calls navel gazing. It's so, in that you don't spend adequate time on the spiritual, which is, how I show up in the world.
Yeah.
So both,
Yeah.
the in my opinion, the best way that you can be a protector to not just women, but to your family, is by being both healthy, emotionally healthy and spiritually healthy.
And having a relationship with Jesus gives you both of those and more. Trust and believe. Jesus is going to tell you about your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, of course, your physical health. He might tell you, get up and go to the gym, go get a therapist. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not going to leave things unturned. I mean, rocks unturned. He's going to make sure that we are whole and healthy. But that's if we have a relationship with him and we actually listen and submit to what he has to say. And so, I think that's it. Trey, is there anything else?
So thank you all for joining us on tonight. This conversation has been so full, and I
thank you.
Thank Purvis and Warner for joining us. And just make sure that you guys are liking, commenting, and subscribing to our channel. As you know, you will see us next week, not on a Wednesday, but you will see us next week on Tuesday for our Tuesday lives with Trey and Jay. And as you already know, on this channel, we share our lives to encourage others to love Jesus, love themselves, and love others well. So have a good night, a good morning, a good afternoon, depending on what time you're watching this. And make sure to binge. That's the part. Make sure you are binge watching all these episodes. These are really good, y'all. Okay?
Amen.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, y'all.
Good night. Hold on one second. We're still on. All right.